of the evening, the livelihoods of small-scale fishermen, people involved in small-scale operations, is under threat, and this has come up in Parliament. The department concerned, saying that it just does not have the resources to support those small-scale fisheries. Well, the EFF's Member of Parliament, Nazir Paulson, is with us from our Seapoint studio. Mr. Paulson, if you can hear us this time, the EFF would like to be involved to support small-scale fishing operations. My question was, how would you do that?
Firstly, Francis, we believe that, and there's evidence that there are 600,000 fishers, males and females, who have made fishing a living, and we believe that it is 600,000 families that are affected by this. And we believe that it is the responsibility of government to ensure that we restore these fishing communities to a dignified existence.
And what's the problem here? Is it the quotas? Because remember, we do have to protect the fish. This is a depletable resource. Is it the quotas or the rights? I saw claims that rights are being hogged by commercial operations. What's the problem?
Francis, the problem has been coming on for a long time. Our marine resources have been depleted by commercial fishers. It is not the small-scale fishers, the subsistence fishers, that have been depleting our resources. All they do is they go and fish to survive, and the corporate fishers are the ones that have been depleting our resources. And despite all of that, the Department of Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries has allocated long-term fishing rights to 18 medium or large corporate companies. And the problem here as well is many of these companies are multinationals. So what happens, any profits made in the industry are taken offshore.
All right, so you should take some of their rights to fish away and give those to the small-scale operations. Is that what you're saying?
I think what government should do is either drastically reduce the rights to these corporates, or place a moratorium on fishing allocation to corporate companies, so that we can start restoring our fish resources, our fishing stocks, and allow the subsistence and small-scale fishers to actually make a living for themselves and their families.
The Portfolio Committee on Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries in Parliament seems to want to help. It says it would like to provide a mechanism for the transfer of rights from commercial to small-scale fisheries. So do you believe that Parliament is behind this, that there could be some positive change for the smaller fishermen and women?
Well, Francis, if one looks at the implications of actually not making sure that we take care of our small-scale fishers, the impact could be devastating. Remember, when coastal communities can no longer provide a livelihood to the people who live there, they will flock to the metros. And what happens when people flock to the metros and they cannot find employment? It contributes and it adds to the high levels of unemployment. And that in turn leads to increased criminal activity. So the implications are dire. And I think it is we believe that it's government's responsibility to avoid this catastrophe.
Looking at the reports, I was amazed at the policy that it apparently centers on cooperatives producing an alternative source of income for fishing communities. So they want the communities not only to fish, but look at processing and marketing. Is this getting way too complicated when fishers would want to fish? Is that a problem as well? And then, of course, the department saying we just don't have enough people to support such cooperatives anyway.
answers the problem with cooperatives. It's going to require some sophistication. Small-scale fishers may not have the necessary skills. To run a cooperative, the organizational, the management skills to run a cooperative. You must remember, when we speak about fishing communities, we're speaking about very marginalized communities who may not have had access to the education to run cooperatives. So already it is doomed for failure. I think government, or we believe that government should take the lead and participate in the economy, especially in the oceans economy, that they should provide those skills until they've transferred those skills to fishing communities to actually run cooperatives.
Finally, Mr. Paulson, if you say 600,000 people could be affected, that's a staggering amount. Is there a solution here where we can help people save their livelihood, but make sure that we don't deplete our fishing resources either? Do you believe that that balance can be found?
We can find that balance, and that balance is for government to be bold and not to be beholden unto large corporates who have been plundering our marine resources, and we place a moratorium, or we drastically reduce their fishing quotas so that we can actually allow fishing communities to survive, because it will have dire consequences should we not take care of our small-scale fishers and take care of our fishing communities. In addition to that, government also has to look at programs where they could substitute fishing. For example, aquaculture. There's a great demand for some of the fishing stocks. In China alone, the demand for abalone is 300,000 tons of abalone, and abalone internationally sells for $80, which roughly translates into 1,400 Rand per kilogram. And government has not planned or prepared for this huge market that does exist. And I think here lies an ideal opportunity for a government that's going to be creative and bold and do something positive, as opposed to just taking or passing on the responsibility to big corporates to provide us with this much needed source of protein and nutrition.
All right, thank you very much. That was the EFF Member of Parliament, Nazir Paulson, and we'll be getting different views this week about what many would say is a crisis in fishing, especially for those small-scale operations.